So as I mentioned off the top of the show, the budget was released yesterday, just around 4 o'clock, just after 4 o'clock. A bunch of things were there, and I don't mean to diminish all the other things I'm not going to get to today. Perhaps if you have a question on any topic regarding the budget, you can put it in the chat box now, and perhaps I get to it in our question segment at the end of this show, which is coming up right after this segment. Or feel free to send a question in throughout the next couple of weeks, and perhaps we can answer it on our next show. But the two areas I wanted to highlight for the budget is this idea of the federal government really focusing on housing, and they're setting aside billions of dollars to go towards building affordable homes, because like our provincial government, and as you all know that watch the show, I had on the Premier of Ontario talking about housing here in Ontario, Premier Doug Ford talking about flooding the market with housing. The only way, increased supply to get housing prices down. He feels the only way to get housing prices down, and I agree with him. So a lot of money, the provincial level, federal level, is going towards housing. Unfortunately, though, the second point that I wanted to touch on that also came out and individual investors are already asking me about, I received already text messages, phone calls about, is how is the federal government going to pay for all this? As the question we always ask, right? We're running a larger and larger deficit in this country. And now apparently the interest expense on the debt that we have in this country actually is greater than the amount of money we spend on healthcare on an annual basis. So it's getting up there. Look at the United States. They're spending over $1 trillion in interest payments based on how much debt they have. So the debts are definitely racking up, unfortunately. And so what did our federal government do? Well, they decided to, once again, unfortunately, talk about how the wealthiest in our country aren't paying their fair share. And they talked about raising taxes on corporations, on trusts, and on individuals that make a certain amount of capital gains on an annual basis. And they talked about capital gains going from 50% to being taxed 66% of the capital gain versus the 50% of the capital gain. And we have a chart here on capital gains in the federal budget, which can quickly summarize or hopefully give you a little bit of an example. So for those that on an individual basis, if you're making more than $250,000 of capital gains in a year, then your capital gains rate goes up to 66% or 2/3 versus being taxed on only 50%. So yes, that probably won't affect many people. Not a lot of people have $250,000 of capital gains personally on an annual basis. But what the federal government then did was increase capital gains tax on businesses, corporations, trusts. So if you're a small business and you have excess capital and you don't know what to do with it, you don't need it to run your business, you've probably been investing it. Or if you haven't, you should have been investing it. Now the capital gains that you make on those investment dollars are now taxed. 66% of those gains are now taxed versus just 50%. So corporations, unfortunately, are now going to be taxed at the higher rate. When it's all said and done, it comes out to about 10% more that these businesses, these trusts, because trusts are included as well, are going to be paying on their on their money that they make. Is this fair? Are businesses going to complain? Well, we've already heard from TD Economics. I heard this morning that they were talking about productivity and that this is not going to help businesses trying to become more productive. It may be a bit of a deterrent to people opening up a business or businesses coming to our country if they see capital gains tax being increased. So we'll see what types of ramifications this, I guess, increase in taxes are on businesses, on the, highest earners in our country. As the Premier has said on my show, he does not believe in taxes. And taxes, in fact, I think he said he hates taxes. Taxes are definitely not the way to go about things. Obviously, our federal government does believe that taxing a portion of the population will allow them to continue to spend the money that they need to spend. And there lies, I guess, the differences of opinion. So overall, that's the two main highlights, in my opinion, that stood out to me when I saw the budget. But again, we'll delve into the budget a little more and stay tuned. We will have a little bit more on the budget, perhaps on our next show.